Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there tonight and had yourselves a wonderful day. And I do hope everyone's had a great week out there so far as we draw a little bit closer to that weekend, so that's always good. Got you a big time update on the tropics. We're going to get very detailed in this video. The first thing we'll discuss is current conditions out here in the Atlantic. The latest from the National Hurricane Center as far as any areas of interest we're watching, and then we'll go over all the model guides that certainly points to a pretty active period out ahead of us of tropical activity, especially as we get into the middle portion of the month, which is pretty much next week. So we'll do that, go over ensemble guidance, and we'll have a section of the video, a pretty large part of the video where we'll kind of geek out with you guys a little bit, discuss the environmental background of the Atlantic and how it does support tropical activity in the coming days. And we'll have a section for steering currents too, because of course people want to know where is this going to go. So we'll kind of discuss what could drive this potential tropical system or tropical systems one way or the other. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And of course, if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling for tonight. So make sure this is going to work for us first. So we like to start all these videos off by showing you the big picture of the Atlantic currently. And not a whole lot to circle. There continues to be at least an area of interest off the coast of the eastern U.S. right here in this region. And I mean, it's not doing a whole lot. I mean, I will just circle this entire area. An area of energy could get going, might gain some tropical characteristics, and who knows, might take a name. Of course, Dexter, which has lost its tropical characteristics, continues to race out here in the North Atlantic. The next name is Aaron. With an E. Will this take a name? Not sure, but we're not going to talk about this anymore pretty much besides just right now. But I did want to circle that area of interest because I'll show it to you here on the National Hurricane Center graphic here in a second. So we do have a lot of tropical activity in this area too, but this is not expected to really develop into anything. The next thing we'll circle, the last thing, is pretty much the entire tropical Atlantic out here. And of course, there's areas of this circle where there's really nothing, like this region. But in general, there's Invest 96L out here, which is basically an area that's basically under investigation from the National Hurricane Center. That's like right here, and it's really hard to separate this from any other convection you see on your screen, but that is an invest. Is this going to develop? I think it has a chance to. If it does, either way, it looks to recurve out to sea in this general direction, but pretty much right around when I did that arrow, that's where it is. But I would say the main topic of discussion really that a lot of people are chattering about is what emerges off Africa. We really need to watch this area, and I think we're going to have multiple pieces of energy that emerge over the tropical Atlantic and then have a shot to develop. So this sort of piece to the puzzle of the Atlantic, if you will, is not really being shown right now currently. But we're going to go over how it will be shown over the next few days. So I just want to start off by showing you guys that. Not a whole lot to circle out there really as far as current conditions. Now, the latest from the National Hurricane Center. I'm going to update this, see if we got a new update. Let's see if we do. We do. Okay, so I was about to say I did not think we were going to catch the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. In fact, I had a graphic pulled up at the very end. I can click that off now, exit it out. So this is the latest, 7:15, literally dropped about 8 minutes ago from the time I'm making this video. Right now, we still have this X where this is where kind of some energy is that has a 20% chance to develop in this yellow area. I'm not going to talk about that pretty much anymore after that because I think it doesn't matter if it develops or not. It's not going to bother anybody. Okay, then we have this X right here, which is I just discussed sort of in this monsoon trough down here. It's Invest 96L. Hopefully I didn't say Invest 93L just a second ago, but Invest 96L is right here where this orange X is. It has a 60% chance still to develop in this orange area between now and the next 7 days. And when I say develop, anytime when I'm discussing these graphics from the National Hurricane Center, I mean develop into a tropical storm or tropical depression or a named storm, basically a system with a defined low-level circulation or feature. So they're still keeping it at a 60% chance of developing, which is kind of surprising to me. Now, another thing that's kind of surprising is they still have not pulled a trigger on an area of interest out here. So I'm circling this area in yellow. I think, and I've been saying this for about 36 hours worth of videos now, I think by this time tomorrow, this is my shot I'll take. we'll have a 10 to either 30% chance of tropical development, and I'll say they'll do 10 to 20 of tropical development in this yellow circled area for a wave that could emerge out into this area and then have a shot to develop in this region. But that might not happen between now and the next 7 days. This is why they're kind of holding off until we get inside that 7-day period, because these graphics only go 7 days out, right? They don't say between now and the next 10 days. So keep that in mind as we discuss going forward. So did want to show you that. I'm glad I got the latest update, even though there was no really new information with that, except they dropped the percent chance of development with the system off the coast of southeast. All right. So let's go over all the model guidance that has everybody chattering on social media, whether that's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it may be. And I think the chatter is warranted depending on what the chatter is saying, right? So we'll start off Saturday morning. If I do forget to mention any time frames, guys, just look right up here. It's going to be kind of small on your screen, but SAT stands for Saturday. Don't worry about Zulu time. There's the date here, August 9th, so next couple days. That's Invest 96L. Is it developing? Not sure, but it looks like it's gaining latitude. Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico here, Hispaniola, stuff like that, right? So this area of energy continues to head north, finds a weakness in the pattern, also gets tugged north by an upper level low feature. The next thing you put your eyes on is down here where a 10-11 millibar low is showing up. And just consider this a tropical wave. That's all I want you to take out of this. This is a tropical wave emerging off of, well, at this point, it's well off Africa, this time frame. So we move into Monday morning. It's pretty much right in the middle of the MDR, main development region, the tropical Atlantic. Okay, so we continue to move into next Tuesday, the 12th. We move into next Wednesday. Okay, still just a weak tropical wave. And this is why I think they're holding off on saying, hey, there's a chance of development between now and the next 7 days. At this point, we're already about 6 days out, about 5.5, 6 days. And it doesn't look like this system's really developing much. And I think it will struggle. The thing that we watch, and at some point we might have to worry about, is if this energy kind of remains intact as it gets closer to the Caribbean islands. So at this point, you kind of have multiple areas of energy. Kind of the lead wave, this one, maybe this one, but let's continue to move this forward. Then finally, this begins to look to strengthen as it gets sort of around the Leeward Islands or outside Puerto Rico. 1,005 millibar low. When you're looking at these numbers with the L kind of just south of it, right, below it, anytime you start to get below 1,000 millibars or around it, you start to get the tropical cyclone type stuff or hurricane, right? So let's switch to this. So this is starting off not tomorrow, Friday morning, next Friday morning. Okay, August the 15th, that mid-month time frame. Here it comes. Watch how it takes a struggling tropical wave that barely makes it across the Atlantic, at least the MDR part of it, and gets it into what we call the Southwest Atlantic, which is an area that I'm concerned about. I'm always concerned about the Caribbean and definitely the Gulf, but I'm very concerned about the Southwest Atlantic too. For any tropical systems to get in this area, sea surface temperatures are above average for sure for this time of the year. Any time of the year, honestly. As we get to day 10, we have a strengthening tropical system starting to get into the Turks and Caicos Islands north of Hispaniola. You know, I had a couple comments like, can you mention Puerto Rico more? Why can't you mention the names of islands more in the Caribbean? Folks, there's no point in doing that right now, because what we're trying to seek out here is some sort of tropical signal. We don't know if it's going to hit Jamaica. We don't know if it's going to hit Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, the Leeward Islands, the Windward Islands. We don't know any of that. We don't even know if there's going to be a tropical system. So, you know, don't get mad at me or anybody else for not specifically mentioning your island out here or your state or whatever it may be. We're just seeking out this signal. So 10 days out, we got a strengthening tropical system, saying 996 millibar low. That's probably a tropical storm, but it quickly strengthens into a hurricane, and then it turns into pretty much a category 2 or 3 hurricane, and then hits Florida, you know, about past 10 days from now. Okay, between day 10 and 15. Please don't look at this and show everybody on your phone and say, hey, Mitch said there's going to be a hurricane that hits, you know, Florida on August 19th or 20th. It's just one model run. Right? And I think there could be more waves behind this, but of course we don't want this to happen. Now the Euro AI model, what does it show? It's been locked into showing something similar for a while. So we'll get this going. Here comes the first wave, right? That's what this blob of blue, blob of green, I guess don't know my colors, is turning north, and it really never even develops it. Here comes the wave that we're concerned about. Not concerned, but we're definitely watching. I want to, use my words wisely here. Don't want to say scared, worried, concerned, really yet. Okay? But here comes that lead wave. Not the one that has an area of interest on it. It's the one that doesn't have one yet on it. We get about a week out. It's the same thing on the euro. This thing is a week low, 1010 millibar low. It's basically just an open wave cruising across the central Atlantic. Okay, we got another wave behind it too. And it takes all the way until it gets closer to the Caribbean islands before it starts to strengthen, just like the euro. And here it comes on your screen. 10 days from now, 1003 millibar low. You know when it starts to get to around that, you're starting to get a notable tropical system, and then of course it begins to strengthen this into a powerful hurricane as it gets closer to the Bahamas, Turks, Caicos, and kind of takes the same similar route as the euro, and plows a major hurricane right into the southeast coastline. So two models agree there. What about the latest GFS? It shows something similar. First wave turning out to sea. It never really even gets this going. The GFS has hung on to the idea of this strengthening into something for so long, and it's finally starting to let it go somewhat. But it does have some sort of system here. Now, the GFS gets this system going fast. It has the same next wave that we've been talking about, still over Africa right now, and it strengthens this into pretty much a tropical storm before it even gets to the central portion of the tropical Atlantic. I mean, you got 1004 millibar low, and then it strengthens into a strong tropical storm, and it's a hurricane before it even gets close to the Lesser Antilles. And then we take it all the way to next weekend. 980 millibar low, category 1 or 2 hurricane, and we flip it to this, and here it comes sneaking up on your screen, and a little compact hurricane, and we get about 10 days from now, and what do you know? It has a tropical system. Not exactly, but around the same area of the ocean that the Euro and Euro AI model has it. Okay? I mean, that's pretty wild. And strengthens it into a powerful major hurricane. Now, what does it do after this? It gets awfully close to the southeast. And in fact, it goes right into Myrtle Beach. But 360 hours out, guys. Okay? But man, it drops it to a sub 940 millibar low off the coast of the southeast. And the thing that is wild about this, I'm not concerned, but I mean, this has it, and that has it. So I mean, that is some wild long-range model agreement. But let me tell you something, it's not going to agree when we wake up tomorrow morning. Now you might not. Now watch, you guys are going to be like, well, you were totally wrong about that when we wake up and it's showing a hurricane in the same exact location, but I'm pretty highly confident it's not. I gotta pace myself, guys. Drink a little Diet Coke there. So what about the ensembles? Okay, well, look at the Euro ensemble first. Remember, it makes up 51 members. So when you see a bunch of L's on this screen, don't think there's like 42 low pressures. Okay, it's a smoothed out average of 51 members, and on this output puts all the members that form into a notable and strength tropical system. So we get this in motion. There's the signal for whatever system might form. It turns out to see. That's the one that has a 60% chance to develop. I really think they should have dropped it to a 50% chance. But this is the signal for the wave that emerges behind it. What's interesting is this gains some latitude pretty fast. These members do. Just like the GFS does too. And then it kind of bogs back down, bobs and weaves a little bit. And then we get to all the way until about a week from today. And we have many L's out here, symbolizing the fact there's going to be some sort of tropical system, most likely, or area of lower pressure, tropical energy, tropical wave. There could be multiple of them. And the reason I say multiple of them is because you got some L's way over here. You got some members still way back here. So I think model guidance is really going to struggle to latch on to what's going to be a pretty convectively active monsoon trough out here in the Atlantic. It's going to have trouble latching on to which energy it wants to develop. I think model guidance is going to struggle with that. So, we start to get all the way to day 10. And of course, it has many members here, guys. I'm going to take a closer look at this. Some of these members are strong. Some of them are weaker, around 1,000 millibars. But then again, this is only at day 10. These members do nothing but get stronger. Some of them look to be turning out to sea. Some of them look to be taking the same route as its operational run. Now, what about the GFS ensemble? Same thing. That first system heading out to sea. You're going to see these L's kind of glitch in and out. I don't know what's up with that right now, but here comes that wave of interest. Not technically an area of interest right now, but I do think that'll change over the next 24 to 48 hours. And here it comes. Pretty strong signal. Another signal for the Bay of Campeche showing up, but we'll ignore that for now. But you got this signal for a wave. And remember, this only makes up 21 members, the GFS ensemble does. This is a week out. We got a little member action over here indicating maybe another wave. And, we take it to about 10 days out. And it looks similar, guys. I mean, you got a lot of members. You got a lot of members turning. You got some that are very strong right into here. So, I mean, to me, it's a strong signal. So that's all the model runs. Now, there's other models like the Icon and Canadian, but, we're going to show the ones that probably have the most skill, right? Icon, Canadian model. We look at them sometimes when we're trying to see if there's just total agreement, but a lot of those really aren't in a decent range right now. So let's talk about the environmental background. Let's talk about moist and dry air. The brown, dry air on your screen. The green, moist air. So this is the first wave. This is an area of interest right now. Invest 96L. Creating a plume of moisture, pretty far north. Here comes the wave of interest. And I keep calling it the wave of interest because it's the one that we're talking about a lot, right? Now this comes, a little bit of dry air kind of gets thrown back down in front of this, but this kind of plows right into that. Whether there is actually moist or dry air anywhere, I still think that this first wave is going to create more of a moist environment in front of the one wave that we're really watching. But that wave plows into the Caribbean and gets into the Southwest Atlantic. And when I say it plows, it gets there, I'm meaning that it brings moisture into the atmosphere in this area. Could have another little dip of dry air here, but I really think that this wave opens up for more waves behind it. Creates a more moist environment, potentially on what's we know has been a pretty stable and dry environment out here in the Atlantic. Okay, so you match that with the fact that we have a favorable MJO pulse of rising air, and the fact that we're getting just climate-wise into a more favorable time of hurricane season. Everything points to an active period coming up. The next thing I'll discuss is the upper wind pattern. I've been talking about this a lot. Had a long post about it on social media this afternoon. This is more of a topic of discussion if something does get into this area, which we just showed almost every model run showing something. So let's draw on this. This is the Southwest Atlantic. This is the Caribbean. This is the Gulf. And what you're looking at here is winds at 200 millibars. So 40,000 feet up in the air, which is a level of the atmosphere that's above the actual convection in the low to mid levels of the atmosphere. So this is flow, whether it's strong flow, higher winds, or whichever way the flow's going, whatever it is, it's above these systems. So this is a great way to kind of gauge what's steering the atmosphere in the upper levels. But it's also a great way to figure out if there's any high levels of wind shear out here, things like that. And if there's a favorable upper wind pattern, upper, obviously meaning, hey, this is what we're looking at way up there in the atmosphere. So enough of all that. What you're looking at is a lot of white on your screen, which tells us there's not a lot of high winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Of course, the winds are flowing, they're kind of going around this feature and like that over here. There is some stronger flow up here, further up in the North Atlantic off the coast of the eastern U.S., a little bit more here. In areas of getting into portions of the Caribbean. But in general, there's light flow aloft. So that means that there's probably going to be an atmosphere that supports a lot of divergence aloft. So basically these systems, for example, this is what the GFS shows where a tropical system could be on its operational run. You flip it back to this. That was weird. You flip it back to this, and this is the Euro ensemble of what the atmosphere could be, which has a low pressure right into here. Basically, on top of the storm, you have what we call a ULAC, upper level anticyclone. So if this is exactly where the system's going to be, it would have one heck of an environment to work with. Because winds are rising through this system, then they're getting dispersed. Now, in this case, the airflow is so light in the upper levels of the atmosphere that these systems are just kind of creating their own environment that supports a more favorable upper wind pattern because they're just pushing so much air outward. So if we go to this, let's get this back off our screen. Let's take it completely off. And let's flip it back to where we were at. Okay? Not the sounding. We're a little everywhere in this video. But that's all right. We can't be perfect every time, right? So this is the Euro on where it thinks a tropical system will be next weekend. Not this weekend, next weekend, okay? 1,000 millibar low. But remember, this is in the process of strengthening very quickly. So let's bring it back to this. Well, this, okay? 1,000 millibar low next Saturday evening. What is the 200 millibar wind flow with this system? It's violent and not in a good way for tropical activity. This thing's creating its own environment. Now, you might be thinking, well, Mitch, I see a bunch of blue. That probably means wind shear, right? No, this is in the upper levels of the atmosphere. This is kind of creating this, if you will, or aiding in it. So basically, this system is spinning like this in the low to mid levels, cyclonically. In the upper levels, it's spinning anticyclonically. Hence why we have a ULAC, upper level anticyclone. So basically, what's happening is air is rising up through the middle of the system. More air is being dispersed away. As that air is being dispersed outward, it allows for more air to rapidly rise. That is rapidly getting tossed around the system. And whether it's an environment like this or if it's just a lot of air being dispersed outward, you're getting a lot of divergence aloft, disbursement of air. And this is basically creating an environment for a lot of convection because we know that rising air leads to convection. Convection leads to shower and storm activity. Shower and storm activity is moist air. Tropical systems like moist air. They don't like dry air, right? So basically this allows this system to create a very intact, moist environment to create a barrier, a moisture barrier for the heart and soul of these tropical systems, which is the low-level circulation. So I know I'm getting deep into this, but, you know, for what I mean with a moisture barrier, you see how cocoon this is with moist air right here? Even though there's dry air around this, you know, there's plenty of deep moisture around the actual low-level circulation. And I mean, it has cocooned itself. So it's protecting itself because it has such a favorable upper wind pattern. Okay, and it's the same thing with the GFS, guys. I mean, you look right here. The latest GFS has a strong hurricane just outside the Leeward Islands next Sunday morning, August the 17th, right? And remember, this is continually to strengthen as it moves northwest into the southwest Atlantic. So we move it back to this, right? So this is in a strengthening mode at this point. Why? Because of that. Look at this. You know that this thing is in a very favorable environment when it's creating its own strong winds aloft. Okay, so I mean, basically, like I said, spinning like this in the low to mid levels, air is rapidly getting pushed out just like this, anticyclonically. And that is basically rapidly pushing air out from the middle of the storm, allowing for more air to rise. So this is an environment that supports rapid intensification. And that's why I'm worried. I know you're like, man, why are you discussing so deeply into something that's 9-10 days away? Because I want people to understand what could aid in a tropical system rapidly strengthening once it gets into this area of the ocean, whether it's the Caribbean, the Gulf, or the Southwest Atlantic. That is why you're seeing weaker tropical systems as they go across the Atlantic, and then you're seeing them explode once they get into kind of these areas right into here. Okay? Because the upper wind pattern looks dangerous, if I'm being honest. You mix that with the obvious. Very warm sea surface temperatures. This is in Celsius, but you see 29, 30, 31 degrees Celsius. You convert that to Fahrenheit. I mean, folks, that's the mid to upper 80s, some cases low 90s. Some buoys out here are probably reporting sea surface temperatures in the 90s. So very warm temperatures as far as sea surface temperatures, and especially for the Southwest Atlantic. Now, probably the most confusing thing to explain out of all of this is steering currents. And, you know, there's really isn't a huge point of getting too deep into this, but I'm going to show it a different way than what I've been showing, and that is 500 millibar pretty much height. So basically it's another way to look at high pressure and low pressure. Sort of the cooler colors up here, this is where we have lower pressure. The warmer colors like the reds and the burgundies, this is where we have stronger high pressure, which influences the atmosphere more. So, you know, the reds, this is high pressure. When you can start to get into some of these, you know, burgundies, that's stronger high pressure. The flow around this is definitely steering things more. So it's going to be a little hard to see on your screen, but if you look right down here, this is that main wave of interest. This is going to continue to sort of ride sort of the directional flow around this high pressure. Okay. Now, as we continue to move this forward here, right, it's following the bottom edge of that high pressure. It's a weak low. You can see the L occasionally pop up. Okay, now all this stuff is kind of staying south, riding low for the most part. It's weaker. So even though you don't have a stronger ridge influence sort of in this area, you don't really have a strong ridge, honestly. I mean, you see some splotches of burgundy indicating stronger pockets of this ridge, but in general, it's enough to carry a weaker system, I mean, pretty much east to west. So what happens when this thing strengthens? I mentioned a lot. The stronger storm system always wants to, a stronger low pressure always wants to gain latitude. It wants to turn north and fight with everything it has to control its own destiny. Okay, and that's get north. So as this thing begins to strengthen here, and here it is right here into 1,000 millibar low, you know it. You notice it begins to start to move a little north. If you didn't, here it is. It's kind of down here at first, and then it kind of goes up into here. So it starts to gain some latitude. And that's because it gets stronger, sniffs out a weakness, even though you still got light ridging right into here. And I say light all the time, I mean weak ridging. I gotta start saying weak ridging, not light ridging. And the flow is still kind of going like this. I still think that there's just one weak flow and just a weakness in the flow really anywhere in this area. So, you know, as you move here in time, do you have some stronger ridging that builds on the storm here? I'm not quite sure, but it does look like you have a bit. You see how that burgundy pulls up right here? It looks like you got stronger ridging kind of building into this area here. This would push this, unfortunately, into land. What you would need here is if we get some crazy hurricane into here, you would need a weakness to show up here so this thing could just kind of, you know, whoop, scoot on out to sea. Happens a lot. So, hope that makes sense, guys. You know, some videos not always going to explain it the best, right? But the steering current is hard to explain in this situation because there's a weakness out here, and it's thrown me for a loop a little bit. I'll be honest that so many tropical systems continue to head west. But we got to remember, and I got to remember, that there's different directional pulls and different levels of the atmosphere. So the ridge at 500 millibars, which is, you know, 18,000 feet up in the air, the tug might be different at, say, 30,000 feet or 10,000 feet. And this helps to pull these systems one way or the other. But one thing I know is a stronger system is going to want to gain latitude, get north. And it's wild to me that you got a major hurricane in this area. And I'm sorry, if I call this the GFS, this is the Euro. It's wild to me that you got a strong hurricane in this area, and it continues just to cruise so far west. I mean, this is a ridge on top of it. It's kind of embedded into weak ridging. But anyways, enough of that. I'll round it off with this. This pretty much supports what we've been talking about, what I've been talking about, what others have been talking about, the global tropics hazard outlook. Basically, week 2 and week 3 look like we have chances of tropical activity per the Climate Prediction Center, the experts. So even, you know, starting next week, the 13th and the 19th, in that red area, that's a 40% chance of a tropical system developing. And folks, that's exactly where this tropical system gets to, that we just discussed, like crazy. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hey, want to say I appreciate the support. It's been great. You know, the channel has certainly picked up. It's taken a lot more energy to do these videos, and you know, guys, I like to do these 2-a-days, even though it takes a lot out of me. I almost thought about not doing one tonight, but appreciate the growth. Welcome to any new subscribers to the channel. You know, there's nothing too flashy about this channel, but we go all out. We have a family atmosphere. We pray for one another. We glorify God. We look out for one another. And welcome to any new subscribers. And like I said, you might not get anything too crazy or flashy out of this, but one thing I promise you'll get is a ton of detail and a ton of love. So that's all I got. Have a wonderful night, and we'll do it all over again in the morning. God bless.